The story begins with James, a strong and respected CEO. He is a successful businessman. Many people admire him for his work and leadership. But behind this powerful image, James is going through many personal problems. He is not just a boss, he is also a son, a brother, and a man with many emotions and responsibilities. One morning, James is sitting alone in his large office. The room is quiet, and the sunlight is coming through the big windows. He looks outside, thinking deeply. His face shows a mix of sadness and stress. It is clear that something is bothering him. Even though he has money, success, and a beautiful office, he feels empty inside. Suddenly, there's a knock on the door. His assistant comes in and tells him that Diep has arrived. James nods slowly. He has been waiting for this meeting. When Diep walks into the room, the air becomes tense. There is a deep history between them. You can feel the emotions, even if no one says anything yet. Diep is calm but serious. She looks at James and waits for him to speak. James takes a deep breath and starts to talk. His voice is low and filled with emotion. He says he wants to fix things, not just in business, but in life. He says he knows he made mistakes. He didn't always treat people the right way. He tells Diep that he's been thinking a lot about the past. Diep listens quietly. She doesn't interrupt him. Her eyes show that she is hurt, but also curious. She wants to hear what James has to say. She doesn't know if she can trust him again, but she is willing to listen. James continues. He says he regrets not listening to his family more. He was always too busy with work, meetings, and travel. He says that even though he built a big company, he lost something more important: connection with the people he loves. He remembers how his mother used to tell him to rest, to take care of his health, to visit his brother. But he didn't listen. Now he wishes he had. He also talks about his brother. James says he hasn't spoken to him in months. There was a big fight. Words were said that can't be taken back. He misses him, but he doesn't know how to fix things. He asks Diep, "What would you do if your own brother doesn't want to talk to you anymore?" His voice shakes a little as he speaks. Diep finally responds. She tells James that people can forgive, but only if they see real change. She says that actions are more important than words. If James really wants to fix things, he has to show it, not just say it. He has to reach out to his brother, to his mother, and spend time with them. He has to stop being just a businessman and start being a human being again. James nods slowly. He understands. He knows it won't be easy, but he also knows he can't live like this anymore. He wants to be better. He tells Diep that he is ready to change. Not for business, not for image, but for himself and for the people who still care about him. They sit in silence for a moment. The room feels heavy, but also calm. A small light of hope begins to shine in James's eyes. Maybe this is the beginning of something new. Maybe this is the moment where everything starts to change. James thanks Diep for coming. He tells her he appreciates her honesty. She tells him that she hopes he means what he says, because life is short and second chances don't come often. As she gets up to leave, James stands too. They share a long look, not romantic, but filled with respect and understanding. As the door closes behind Diep, James looks out the window again. This time, the light feels a little warmer. He knows the road ahead is long, but for the first time in a while, he feels ready to take the first step. James was now the CEO of a big company. Every day, he wore a suit and tie, smiled at his employees, and acted like everything was fine. People thought James was strong, smart, and lucky. They looked up to him. They thought he had everything: money, power, respect. But deep inside, James felt something else. His heart was heavy. He felt like he was carrying a big weight that no one else could see. At work, he was always busy. Meetings, calls, decisions, it never stopped. But even when he was surrounded by people, he felt lonely. There was a strange silence inside his heart, even when the office was full of noise. Sometimes, when everyone left the office, he would sit alone in his chair and stare at the window. The city lights blinked outside like stars, but they didn't give him any joy. He remembered the days before he became CEO. Back then, he had time to breathe. He used to laugh more. He used to see his family often. Now, everything had changed. His success had come at a cost he didn't fully understand at first. One evening, after a long day, James drove home. His house was big and beautiful, but when he opened the door, it felt empty. The walls echoed with silence. He had no one waiting for him. No warm dinner on the table. No soft voice asking, "How was your day?" He dropped his bag on the floor and sat on the couch. His heart felt tired. James thought about his past. He thought about his childhood. He grew up in a small house with his mother and 2 younger siblings. They didn't have much money, but they had love. His mother worked hard. She always told him, "One day, you'll become someone important, but never forget who you are." James remembered her smile. It used to make him feel safe. He missed those days. He missed the feeling of home. Now, even though he had everything, he felt like he had nothing. He had lost the simple things: peace, laughter, real connection. He had become so busy trying to become successful that he forgot to live. At work, James tried to hide his pain. He joked with his employees. He smiled in front of clients, but it was a mask. Behind the smile, there was sadness. Sometimes he would go into the bathroom, look in the mirror, and ask himself, "Who are you now?" One day, he got a call from his younger brother, Samuel. Samuel said, "James, it's been months. Why don't you come visit Mom?" James paused. He hadn't seen his mother in almost a year. He kept saying, "I'm busy. I have meetings. I'll come soon." But soon never came. James felt ashamed. He told Samuel, "I'll come this weekend." Samuel was surprised, but happy. "She'll be so glad," he said. "She misses you." That weekend, James took the long drive to his childhood home. The roads were the same. The small shops, the trees, they brought back memories. When he reached the house, he stood outside for a moment. His heart beat faster. The house looked smaller now, but it still felt warm. His mother opened the door. Her eyes filled with tears. "James," she said softly. She hugged him tightly. For a moment, he felt like a child again. The smell of her cooking, the old wooden furniture, the sound of the clock on the wall, it all brought him peace. They sat at the table. She served him his favorite food, rice and lentils, just like before. James ate quietly. His eyes welled up. His mother noticed. "What's wrong, son?" she asked gently. James didn't answer at first. Then he said, "Ma, I feel lost. Everyone thinks I'm happy, but I'm not. I don't feel like myself anymore." His mother held his hand. "You're still my son," she said. "You haven't lost yourself. You're just tired. You need to remember what really matters." Those words touched his heart. That night, James lay in his old bed. The stars outside looked the same as years ago, but this time they made him feel calm. He realized something important. Success was not just about money or position. It was about feeling alive. It was about being close to the people who love you. He promised himself something. "From now on, I will make time for my family. I will not forget who I am. I will not lose myself in the noise." The next morning, he felt lighter. He smiled, not the fake one he used at work, but a real one. He looked at his mother and said, "Thank you." When he returned to the city, things didn't change overnight. Work was still busy. The office still needed him. But James started making small changes. He called his family every week. He visited them more often. He began talking to his employees more kindly. He even told one of his managers, "Don't forget to take care of yourself. Work is not everything." People noticed the change. James was still a strong leader, but now he was also kind, more human, more real, and slowly he began to feel whole again. He still had a long way to go, but he had taken the first step. He had remembered who he was, and that made all the difference. The days passed slowly after James and Diep's argument. Even though their lips were silent, their hearts were screaming. Inside their home, the air felt heavy, like a storm waiting to explode. The rooms once filled with laughter now echoed only with silence and unspoken pain. Each morning James would wake up hoping things had changed, but they hadn't. Diep still avoided his gaze. Her eyes, once filled with warmth, were now cold, distant, and guarded. James tried to focus on work, but his heart was not in it. In meetings, he nodded and spoke, but he could not stop thinking about Diep. Every little thing reminded him of her. Her laughter, her way of holding his hand tightly when they crossed the street, the way she smiled when she saw a flower. He missed her, terribly, but he also felt something else, confusion, a deep, haunting confusion. He kept asking himself, why did she say those things? Why does she push me away when all I want is to love her? One night, unable to sleep, James sat on the couch alone, staring at an old photo. It was taken years ago. They were both smiling, holding hands at the beach. The sun was setting behind them, and Diep's hair was dancing in the wind. She looked so happy then. What happened to that happiness? He thought. Where did it go? James knew there was more to her silence. This wasn't just about their recent argument. There was something deeper, a pain that lived inside her long before he ever met her. He thought back to small things she once said. I don't like hospitals, they remind me of my past. I don't trust easily. People always leave. At the time, he didn't ask questions. He didn't want to push her. But now he regretted not asking. What past? Who left her? What scars is she hiding? The next morning, James made a decision. He was going to try again. Not with words, but with actions. He would show her that he was not going to give up. He started small. He left her favorite tea on the table each morning. He folded her laundry without being asked. He began cooking dinner, even though he was a terrible cook. The food tasted awful, but Diep smiled slightly when she saw the effort. She didn't say much, but she noticed. One evening, he found her on the balcony, looking at the stars. He walked out quietly and sat beside her. I know I've hurt you, he said softly. I don't understand everything, but I want to. I want to be the one who never walks away. Diep didn't reply, but she didn't walk away either. Instead, she closed her eyes and whispered, you say that now. But when you see what's inside me, you'll leave too. James looked at her with tears in his eyes. Try me. Several days passed. Then one night, Diep finally opened her heart. She sat James down and began to speak, slowly, painfully. When I was young, she began, my mother died suddenly. My father changed after that. He became angry. He drank. He shouted. Sometimes he hit me. I was just a child. I didn't understand why. I thought I was the reason my mother died. I thought I wasn't good enough to be loved. James sat silently, his heart breaking with every word she spoke. I grew up with fear. Every time someone got close to me, I pushed them away. Because deep down, I thought I didn't deserve love. I thought love was pain. She paused, tears falling down her cheeks. When I met you, James, you were different. You were kind. You made me laugh. You made me feel safe. But that scared me even more. Because if I let myself believe I could be happy, then losing you would hurt even worse. James gently reached for her hand. You never have to hide from me, he said. You are not broken. You are brave. You survived things most people can't even imagine. And I love you. Not in spite of your past, but because of it. Because it made you the woman I fell in love with. Diep looked at him, truly looked at him, for the first time in weeks. And in that moment, something inside her shifted. For the first time, she believed he might actually stay. Healing was not fast. It didn't happen overnight. There were still moments of fear, of doubt. There were nights when Diep would wake up shaking from nightmares. And there were mornings when James would hold her until the sun came up. But things were changing. Slowly, gently. James suggested they go to therapy together. At first, Diep hesitated. She didn't want a stranger hearing about her pain. But then she looked into James's eyes and saw the sincerity there. So she agreed. In therapy, they talked about everything. The pain, the fear, the walls Diep had built, and the patience James brought with him every day. Each session was like peeling back another layer of pain. It was exhausting, but it was also freeing. They learned how to speak openly, how to fight fair, how to listen without defending, how to sit in silence and just be there for each other. One evening, months later, they went back to that same beach from the photo. The sun was setting again and the wind was gentle. Diep held James's hand and leaned her head on his shoulder. I never thought I could feel peace again, she whispered. James smiled and kissed her forehead. You deserve peace, and love, and everything good this world has to offer. They stood there quietly, watching the sun dip into the sea. Two people, scarred by life, but still standing together. James had learned that love is not just about flowers and sweet words. Real love is about holding each other when things fall apart. It's about choosing each other every day, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. And Diep learned that being loved doesn't mean being weak, that her pain did not make her unlovable. It made her real. It made her strong. The days after Diep left the house were heavy and silent. The halls that once echoed with laughter were now quiet. James sat alone in the corner of his living room, the same room where he used to hold Diep's hand and dream about a future full of joy and unity. Now only memories remained, and they hurt more than silence. James tried to stay busy. He went to the office every day, pretending that business needed him. But the truth was, his heart was not in his work anymore. Even when surrounded by important people, when signing contracts and making decisions, he felt like a ghost moving through the world. His thoughts always returned to Diep, to her last words, to the way she looked at him with disappointment and sorrow. One evening, after a long day at work, James stood in front of the big glass window in his office. The sun was setting, and the sky was painted in shades of red and orange. It reminded him of the first sunset he and Diep had watched together. Tears filled his eyes. He whispered her name to the empty room. "Diep, where are you?" Far away, Diep was also thinking about James. She was now staying with a distant relative in another city. The days were long and lonely. She missed the life she had with James. She missed their jokes, their walks, their dreams. But most of all, she missed the man who truly loved her. Even though she had left, her heart had never left him. She read his old messages every night before going to sleep. She looked at their photos and cried quietly into her pillow. Was I wrong to leave? She would ask herself. Did I give up too soon? But the pain from the way his family treated her still burned inside her. James's family continued their life as if nothing had happened. His mother was satisfied that Diep was gone. His sister was cold and distant whenever James tried to speak about her. They never understood what she meant to him. They never cared about how broken he was. One day, James decided he had to do something. He couldn't live like this, a half-man, full of pain and regret. He had to find Diep, to talk to her, to explain everything. Maybe it was too late. Maybe she would never forgive him. But he had to try. If he didn't, he would never forgive himself. So he asked around. He called people. He looked through old contacts, sent emails, made phone calls. Finally, after many days, someone told him where she was. She was in a small town far from the city, a quiet place where no one knew her past. Without telling anyone, James packed a small bag. He got into his car and started the long journey. Every mile felt heavy. His heart beat fast, full of fear and hope. Would she open the door? Would she smile or turn away? Meanwhile, Diep was sitting by the window, looking at the gray clouds outside. It was about to rain. The weather matched her heart, full of storms. She didn't know James was coming. She didn't know that her world was about to change again. When James reached the town, it was already dark. He asked for directions and finally found the small house where she was staying. He stood outside the gate for a long time, his heart pounding. He raised his hand to knock and stopped. What if she hates me now, he thought. What if she has moved on? But then he remembered the way she used to look at him, with eyes full of trust and love. That memory gave him courage. He knocked. Inside, Diep froze when she heard the sound. She walked to the door slowly. Her hands trembled. When she opened it, she gasped. There he was, wet from the rain, tired, eyes full of emotion. "Diep," James said softly. "I'm sorry." She looked at him for a long moment. No words, just silence. James stepped closer. "I came to tell you everything. I came because I can't live without you. I was a coward. I didn't protect you. I let others hurt you. But I've changed. I see things clearly now. Please give me one chance to make it right." Tears rolled down Diep's face. Her heart wanted to run to him, to hold him tight and never let go. But her mind was afraid of being hurt again. "I missed you," she whispered. "Every day. But I'm scared, James. I'm scared it will be the same pain again." He took her hand gently. "I swear it won't. I've left everything behind. I just want us. I want to start again, with no one else between us." For a long time, she said nothing. Then she looked into his eyes full of honesty, of love, of deep pain and deep hope. And slowly she nodded. They stood in the doorway, holding each other as the rain poured down. It felt like the sky was crying with them, not tears of sadness, but of healing. That night, they sat together and talked for hours. They spoke about everything: the pain, the misunderstandings, the cruelty of the world, and the strength of their love. It was like opening an old wound, but this time with gentle hands and true hearts. James promised he would never let his family or business come between them again. Diep shared her fears, and James listened with tears in his eyes. They both knew that the road ahead would still have challenges, but now they would walk it together. In the early hours of the morning, as the rain finally stopped and a soft breeze entered the room, James held Diep's hand and whispered, "This time, it's forever." And Diep, with a small smile, replied, "Let's build a new story, just you and me." The storm in their hearts had passed. What remained was a quiet hope, strong and steady, a love that had survived the fire and was now ready to shine again. The morning sun rose gently over the quiet town, casting golden light through the curtains. It was the first peaceful sunrise James and Diep had seen together in a long time. They sat side by side on the small wooden porch, watching the world wake up, their fingers gently intertwined. No words were needed. Their hearts were speaking in silence, healing, forgiving, beginning again. James had made a decision the night before. He was not going back to the life that had hurt them. He would build a new life, not as the CEO of a heartless empire, but as a man who had found the true meaning of love. He would no longer chase the cold emptiness of power or the approval of his family. He would chase peace. He would protect the woman who had given him a second chance. Diep watched him with new eyes, not as the broken man who had once failed her, but as someone reborn from the ashes of pain. He had come to her not with gifts or promises, but with truth and tears. And that meant everything. They spent the next few weeks in that quiet place, rediscovering each other. James helped around the small house, learning to cook with Diep, cleaning, laughing, even failing in the kitchen, but never giving up. They walked in the nearby fields, holding hands, talking about their dreams. They planted flowers in the garden together, red roses for love, white lilies for peace, and sunflowers for hope. One day, while they were sitting under a tree, Diep gently placed her head on James's shoulder. "Do you think it's possible to start over completely?" she asked. James looked at her, his voice steady. "I don't just think it, I believe it. With you, I'm ready to live again. No masks, no lies. Just us." Diep smiled through her tears. "Then let's build something that no one can destroy." That evening, James made a call. He officially stepped down from his position as CEO. He sold his shares in the company. It shocked his board, it shocked his family. But for the first time in his life, James didn't care what others thought. He had finally found what truly mattered. His mother called, screaming, demanding to know why he had thrown everything away. His sisters sent angry messages, but James stayed calm. "I didn't throw anything away," he replied. "I found everything I was looking for." In their new life, money was tight, but love was endless. James and Diep opened a small cafe in the town, a place filled with music, books, and warm tea. They named it Phoenix, for a love that had risen from the ashes. The people in the town grew to love them. The cafe became a place of stories and healing, where lonely souls came for comfort and couples came to remember what love was. James wrote poetry on the chalkboard every morning. Diep painted beautiful flowers on the walls. One day, as they sat watching the sunset, just like they used to, James pulled out a small velvet box. Diep's heart skipped. He opened it slowly. Inside was a simple ring with a tiny sunflower engraved on it. "Diep," he whispered, kneeling in the soft grass. "We've been through storms, fire, and silence, but we've survived it all. Not as perfect people, but as people who love deeply. Will you marry me, not for a perfect life, but for a true one, full of honesty, laughter, and second chances?" Diep's tears spilled, but her smile was brighter than ever. "Yes," she whispered, voice shaking with joy. 1,000 times yes. They embraced under the painted sky, their hearts finally at peace. And so, the story that began with silence and heartbreak ended with laughter and hope. Thank you for watching this emotional journey of love, pain, and healing. If this story touched your heart, please don't forget to like this video if you believe in second chances. Comment below what part made you cry the most. We're reading every story you share. Subscribe for more heart-touching stories that will stay in your soul. Until next time, stay kind, stay loving, and never stop believing in the power of love.